Hello, everyone. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Athens in Motion Commission. And our agenda for tonight's meeting, it's jam-packed. I always think like, oh, maybe we'll be able to leave a little early so we can do some work on some of our action items, but that's not going to happen, but it's going to be fun. So we have a lot of things to talk about as far as our commissioners go, our Athens in Motion commissioners. And then in addition to our regular updates, we will spend quite a bit of time going over our T-SPLOS project proposals and getting a status update from that. A lot of great work is happening there. And we'll hear from Daniel, our bike ped coordinator, and do just really quick report backs on the corridor committees and any of our other committees or commissions. And I think that we'll breeze through that quickly because I know a lot of our work is happening when it comes to T-SPLOS, and Teresa's going to give us an update on Open Streets, the Open Streets event. So is there anything I missed that you guys would like to add here, or anything you want to rearrange? All right. If there is nothing, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All right, that's Mark. And can I get a second?
Second.
Second from Teresa. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed,
Aye.
same sign. All right, so we have an agenda, and we were late getting this agenda out, and by we were late, I mean Lauren, your commissioner chair, was late, so I don't think we have any public comments. Daniel, did anyone say anything? Okay. So we will move on to the minutes. I have talked with Jake, our former secretary, and he has not gotten to the minutes yet. He has resigned as a commissioner. So he will either work on those meeting minutes or maybe our new secretary, which we're going to talk about later, can do those minutes for us. Teresa did we'll link to it, did our special called meeting minutes. Oops, I was hoping that would go straight to that. And she had sent them to us. I can't remember who seconded. But we talked about Barber Street and some options there. We include our formal recommendation, and then we also spent a lot of time talking about our plan for T-SPLOS project proposals. And Teresa, I don't recall who seconded on the minute approval.
Me either. I was a bad temporary secretary, and I apologize for that.
It's okay. Well, we can go ahead and approve the minutes as is. I mean, I'll make a motion to approve them. How about that? Can I get a second?
Second.
Who was that? Who ultimately said that? Who seconded?
Me.
Okay, you, Mark. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. All right. Thank you, Teresa. And we're moving on to some general housekeeping items, and we have a lot of them today. So we have some commission changes. So Roswell, who has been our UGA appointee, is departing the commission. And I'm going to turn it over to him so he can leave us with some notes and thoughts. Roswell, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, great. Yes, you're absolutely right. I am departing, but I think for the greater good. For the last few months, my colleagues and I here at UGA have been just sort of thinking through our partnership with this commission and how to do that better. And as you all know, I started meeting with the small group that really deals with a lot of similar concerns, but at UGA. And so we would meet prior to this larger body meeting. And we just talked through it. And I realized I didn't think I was the best fit, right? And we started thinking through who could do that. And somebody already ingrained with some of the different wayfinding around campus, whether it's transportation or whether it's pedestrians or cycling, sidewalks or other ways. And so Blaine just really fit. He checked all those boxes. And so when I contacted him, I was super excited that he lives in the county. But beyond that, I worked with Blaine probably for almost a decade in different capacities, whether I was at the health science campus or prior to that. And beyond being a leader for us in transportation and parking, he's a tremendous individual. He's a great guy. And so I thank you all. I know you all are in great hands. And I ask you to give him the warm welcome that you all gave me and allowing me to get my feet wet and to better understand some of the different dynamics. So Blaine, thank you for accepting this call to service. And we're still here. We already talked about that particular group, and Blaine and I will talk some more in the coming weeks. But thank you all for welcoming me. And I do think Blaine is a tremendous fit, and he'll benefit both UGA's connection with you all, but also his expertise will help a long way for the commission. So thank you both.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, Roswell, thank you so much for your service and being our first UGA appointee on the commission and setting the standard and facilitating the communications between, us as a commission, and several of us are UGA employees as well, and Athens-Clarke County and the University of Georgia, and for establishing those small group meetings. I think it has been great, and I hope we'll continue with that. And yeah, holler if you ever want to talk about transportation with any of us. We love, it's a great thing. We love it. But yeah, thank you again for your service, and I guess we'll see you around. I know that you have another meeting, so we'll welcome Blaine. And Blaine, tell us a bit about yourself. You're an employee at the University of Georgia. You work in transportation and parking services. Yeah.
I do. Thank you, and thank you, Roswell, for that warm welcome. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you reaching out and thinking about me when this opportunity came. A little about me: I work for Transportation and Parking Services, University of Georgia. I've been here 14 years. I do agree with Roswell that I'm a good fit, and I say that I have my hand in transportation, parking, pedestrian, bicycles. This is something I do all the time. Every day we're dealing with some form or faction of that. I'm the operations and compliance manager at University of Georgia for Transportation and Parking Services, and I also deal with a wide variety. I mean, operations, anybody who works in operations, it covers a lot of ground. It's everything from the allocation of all the parking spaces and how do we utilize all the parking spaces on campus, to how do we distribute all the parking permits, how are we going to take care of, how do we balance the needs of the university with supporting the faculty, staff, students. It's a challenge. Mark brought it up earlier, how do we get more parking? And nobody wants to have more parking. We have a saying over here at TPS is every flat parking lot we have is just another future building site. So we're constantly losing parking, gaining people that need parking or need to be on campus, I should say. So it's a delicate balance, and it's something we deal with every day, and it's difficult, it's challenging, but we humbly accept it. We like it. So I do think I'm be a good fit for this commission. I'm very excited. I'm excited to join. I'll be honest, Roswell and I talked a couple months ago about this, and I jumped right in and started looking at some of your old agendas and some of your old meetings. And then I didn't hear anything, and it got away from me a little bit. And now we're kind of in the busy peak season with the university starting classes in a few weeks. So it got away from me. I'm glad to have this opportunity to jump on right now with you guys. Yeah, personally too, I do live in Clarke County. I have children that go to Clarke County schools, public schools. So they also like to ride bicycles and they like to walk, and I like to walk with them and ride around with them. So I'm very interested personally and professionally to be involved, and I'm happy to be here representing the university. I'd like to take some time to observe and pitch in. I'm certainly open to any suggestions, any questions, any questions people have about transportation and parking on university campus. It's a hot button issue sometimes. My wife works at Central HR for the university, and we joke too that at any given time, one of us is the most disliked person on campus or our departments. It's one of us. So sometimes if they're getting hit with something, she might say, "Hey, can you propose a rate increase on parking on campus so people will leave us alone and kind of go to you guys?" So we kind of get it from both sides, but no, happy to be here representing the university, and I appreciate you guys welcoming me in. Let me know where I can help out.
Well, welcome, Blaine. I have to say I can't wait to have a beer with you, or coffee, or whatever you drink.
All the above.
Yeah, and so side note, I work at the Terry College of Business, and
Okay.
our websites are on the same server. So every time a parking registration email goes out, it takes down the Terry website. But we're talking about moving servers and stuff, so it's fine. Yeah, well, welcome. It does sound like you will be a great fit for this commission and really kind of filling in the map for us, the UGA side of things. So very excited. And yeah, we promise not to hound you too much about parking,
Sure.
but it's all part of the same picture. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
And we also have our new Greenway Commission appointee, because Jake is stepped down as Athens in Motion Commissioner, but he is continuing to help us and serve in a committee capacity. But I believe we have Carly in the meeting with us. Carly, can you hear us?
Hello. Hi. Sorry I'm late. I'm usually, this weekend, so I'm in the mountains. And so I definitely have enough service to walk and apparently I didn't get further down the mountain. So, hello. Can you guys hear me?
We cannot hear you, Carly, but I love that you are out and about. Looks like you are, let me see. I feel like this is the Facebook post, like Athens-Clarke County Greenways and Trails. Like, where am I? I'm trying to figure out where you are.
Yes. I'm sorry. I wish you guys could hear me. I'm so sorry. Maybe Daniel can explain. I did send him a text.
Daniel, are you talking?
Yeah, I did it, you guys. I forgot to click the unmute button. All right. I was trying to say that she did text me and she's in the mountains today. So she's trying to get better service, and yeah, looks like she's enjoying a nice walk right now. So a little jealous.
Nice. Well,
Hopefully you can hear us, Carly.
yeah. Carly, we're really excited to have you. Yes, no problem. Okay, great. She can hear us. So I know this is kind of a long meeting and it's kind of a lot to ask you to be here and be in the woods, but I hope that you'll be able to stay on. But if not, you can check in with us afterward. So welcome to both of our new commissioners, Carly and Blaine. So happy to have you. And again, we thank Roswell and Jake for their service. So we have a pretty good crew. So since Jake was our secretary, we do need to elect a new secretary. And Randy, I know you had a suggestion of rotating the minutes taking, but I think that we do have to have a secretary according to our bylaws. So now is the part where I ask someone to nominate somebody or nominate themselves to serve in this critical role of Secretary of the Athens in Motion Commission. So this person will be responsible for taking the minutes or delegating the minute taking, which consists of keeping track of our motions and the things that we have voted on and action items and just a general overview of discussion. It doesn't have to be a line by line summary or who said what specific thing. Jake is very detailed and we love his attention to detail, but he set the bar pretty high. So I'm wondering if any of our newer people would like to be our secretary. and wear that cool hat or crown or fascinator. So I feel like it's probably like some unspoken thing that the chair is supposed to like be nudging people before the meeting to be secretary and like have someone that I've conversed with to present to you guys, but my brain's in T-Splosh land. So, I barely got this agenda together.
I think in an effort to emulate myself to the new group, I'll nominate myself, or I guess it's not fair for me to nominate Carly, right? She can't really hear us right now.
Oh, yeah, right.
She can hear us.
Oops, yep.
So
Yes.
played.
Mhm.
I'll nominate myself. I'll jump in there.
Okay, so maybe what we'll do, since you agree to, maybe I will make a motion to have you, Blaine, be our secretary, and I will entertain a second for that.
Second.
Second, thank you, Teresa. So all those in favor of having Blaine be our secretary, please say aye.
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 All right.
Any opposed, same sign. All
Just
right.
don't show him the previous notes that Jake took so he
Okay.
understands that his expectations, we have lower expectations. Jake used to get these voluminous 4-page minutes, which we do not expect.
We need at least 3 puns throughout the whole
And
like,
just the highlights, yeah.
process. And, you know,
Puns, make sure we're reading them. Great. Well, thank you, Blaine, our new secretary of the Athens in Motion Commission. All right, moving right along. It came up, so we have commissioners, which is you folks in these groups, and we also have people who are not in the Athens in Motion Commission but participate on our committees. And at some point, I wanted to check in with this. We had decided that we would keep the listserv to Athens in Motion commissioners and ACC staff, like Daniel and Stephen. So do we want to, I just want to check in with this. Do we want to keep it that way and then have another way to keep track of who's on committees, like maybe a spreadsheet or something, and send emails out individually? What do y'all think?
I mean, if needed, I could create a separate listserv for committees. It's not that hard to set them up. So just let me know. I mean, that would be one option. Not necessarily the best one, but just that is an option. Or we could have a second listserv that's just broader, but then it's kind of hard to keep track of which one you're using.
Yeah, because you have to remember to take people off 2 places instead of 1, or add them in 2 places instead of 1. And I'm no good at that. This is why I see it as an issue. But if you're
Yeah,
good
and I
at
can,
it,
and I appreciate the suggestion. I guess I could see a situation where like people who are on our committees are a little bit more focused in a particular area. So even if we put them on a listserv, like the folks who are interested in grants and data may not want to hear about what's going on with policy and projects just yet. Maybe they have to be indoctrinated slowly into all that other stuff. Okay, so how about this? I will create, and I'm going to make a note on this agenda. Put it at the top. Lauren will create a spreadsheet with list of committees, members, and email addresses. Oh, also Lauren will add Blaine and Carly to the Google Drive. Does that sound okay?
mhm.
Any other thoughts about our communications with each other, internal communications?
I just have one thought, and it's not really related to this, but it sort of is. Are we still using the Dropbox, or are we going to just try to stay on the Google Drive? I sort of use both, and I feel like it's a little confusing.
Yeah, great question, Teresa. I think it came up before. I think we've decided to stick with the Google Drive and just
Okay.
have everything in there.
All right, so let's make a note to selves not to use Dropbox anymore.
Okay. We are using Drive and not. Great. Thank you, Teresa, for asking for clarification on that, especially as we're working on so many things right now. Okay. And I did want to bring back up the budget, which Teresa had put together a budget request for us last year, and we found out that it has been approved for this fiscal year. So, Teresa, you want me to try and find that and pull that up? Maybe it was an email. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share the screen, Teresa, and then you can talk. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Come on. All right, so we were approved for $12,000.
Right. And as of today, we have spent $0. So sounds like we've got the ability to spend $12,000. And so what might we spend that on? Well, we can possibly do some PR for T-Splost. It has to be informational and educational. It cannot be anything to say, vote for this. So that's something we could spend a little money on. The other thing is the Open Streets event may still happen. There's a meeting tomorrow, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes. And we may be able to, provide money for staff T-shirts or, things like that that might really bring it together or give it a little bit of branding. So it's good that we have some money available to us. And, hopefully next year, when we're no longer dealing with COVID, please God, knock on wood, we'll be able to use the money for some additional outreach and in-person events and things like that.
Teresa, does this money have to carry forward or does it have to be spent during this fiscal year?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Great question.
My guess is it's a fiscal year kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember for when I was on the Greenway Commission, but I think you may be right.
I'll check into that. And I have an email about it, so I'll double check.
One of the things we had talked about was wayfinding around town and purchase and working on signage and things like that, and that had a budget associated with it. And I don't see that in here, and that's fine, but that would be another thing that we could potentially spend $4,000 or $5,000 on, working in cooperation with the city staff, and
I think that would be great, because just based on life experiences with nonprofit and governmental organizations, if you ask for funding in a budget and you don't spend it, then you're likely to either get cut or not get approved the next time you ask for it. So if we can find ways, that are really good that we can spend the money on, that would be super. So.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of worthwhile things that we can do to both, educate folks about T-Splost, but also to start enhancing and maybe some interpretive signage along the Greenway, particularly as we build out the cemetery path. That would be something that, maybe Greenway Commission wants to do that. I don't know. We would certainly want to interact with the Firefly and Greenway folks as well.
And we could share some of the funding, couldn't we?
Potentially, I guess we could certainly collaborate, but again, I don't know that. I don't want to speak out of turn here. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, so some of the wayfinding, the signage stuff seems a bit more like infrastructure to me than what we were trying to achieve with communications and education. And I feel like that
Mhm.
some of that stuff should come from, depending on where the facility is, either leisure services or TPW in some way, or we should work with them, or maybe support their efforts for a greater signage budget. There's been an update of a large, like all the signs for our parks and whatnot recently, as well as for bus stops, and it's been wonderful, but it may not be the kind of wayfinding we're looking to do. So I think that maybe we should work with staff to figure out what's the appropriate avenue for this, because this is really just communications, as it says at the top, versus those kinds of signs. Because yeah, $12,000 is not going to
Mhm.
really
It's not.
put signs
So
out.
I was wondering, and maybe Daniel, you have some insight into this, if we could possibly like hire somebody who's good in communications, PR, that sort of thing, to help us sort of develop uh, a few messages and then ways to put those messages out.
Absolutely. And Stephen did verify it is an operating account, so it does not roll over. So, we would want the funds spent out by June 30th of 22. I actually have some quotes for public outreach materials and story maps, all those kind of things from Tool Engineering, because this conversation has come up in the past. And so,
Right.
um,
Yeah,
with
that's what we had talked about. That came up before, right, with me, you, and Teresa. So maybe looking at this, folks who are interested in figuring out what's the best way to spend our money, that would be under the Communications and Educations committee, Teresa. So if you have some ideas or want to help Teresa with that, I think that would be a good place to discuss that, and to look at this great document that Daniel has, where we do have some quotes on what things like storyboarding and whatnot would cost, and come back to us. Does that sound good?
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just like to suggest that we not take any action on this until September, because we got to get through all this T-Splosh stuff, and then I'm going to disappear for a couple of weeks and go on vacation.
yeah, absolutely. And your operating funds can really basically be used for anything. It doesn't have to be locked into your original ask. So I would say if the entire commission agrees that they would like to spend the funds on something like wayfinding, that is something that could be done most likely. I would say that as far as process goes, it would be a good idea to, I believe there's like certain levels of approval needed, but if you guys basically vote to determine, propose a motion for using a certain amount of money for a certain project, and then everyone votes on it, and that would be probably the best way moving forward. I have the ability to make purchases with P-Card, and as well as Julia Johnson. She's in the admin division, and then I believe Stephen Bailey does as well. But basically, I think most of those purchases would be with departmental approval, but we haven't quite set up a process for how you guys approve those purchases as well. So we can talk more about that as well.
Yes. Teresa, could you and your committee I'm going to assume some folks are going to join you. Come back with a recommendation about how you think we should handle approvals for purchases.
Sure, I'll give that some thought. And
Yes.
hopefully I'll be able to, get that back to you guys. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the August meeting.
Okay.
I'm going to be on the road. But if I can't do the meeting, I'll try to write a memo to you all for discussion.
Okay. Yeah, so to fill in our new folks, we have a couple of subcommittees and we'll hear report backs from them at the end of the meeting. But one of them is this Education and Communication Subcommittee. And I think Teresa has been in there on her own for a while. Is that right, Teresa?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, so we could definitely use some support and resources there. And we'll hear from her in a minute about the Open Streets event that's coming up. So if you're looking for a subcommittee to join, of course, you're welcome to join any and all of them, but would love to get some extra commissioners in on that committee with Teresa. And so there's not a regular meeting. There's meetings regarding Open Streets, which we'll hear from Teresa about. So just you just talk to her and y'all will figure out a meeting time.
I would be super grateful if someone who is good at social media wanted to be part of this, because it's not really my strength. I mean, I can sort of do it, but I think that younger people are more skilled in that area.
I think she's looking at you, Carly.
I'm looking at everybody in this room.
Certainly not looking at me.
Let's not make any ageist remarks. Teresa, you're doing great. You're regularly posting on Facebook. We're not upset that you're not making TikTok videos yet.
I'm not doing a TikTok that I will not do. So anyway, but yeah, now that we're hopefully getting out of the stupid COVID thing, we'll actually be able to do something fun and get some better messaging out there. So talk about that later on, though.
And it is an important charge of this commission, not just to build out facilities, but to educate and communicate to the public. So very important stuff.
And Teresa, I'd love to help with the education aspect.
Thank you. Was that Mark?
That was Randy.
Randy.
Randy. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm happy to help out too. Sorry.
Yes, so that's Carly too.
Yeah.
You guys can now hear me, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to give your intro?
And so if now is a good time, I'm sorry that was how this meeting started for me. That was, first introduction to the commission was a bit embarrassing. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm on vacation up in the mountains and we went on a hike and then it started storming like crazy. And so the hike was much longer than expected. I was trying to log on from the trail, just, didn't work out till I got down the mountain. So I'm back with the Wi-Fi. I'm, here to stay. So sorry about that, you guys. I'm Carly. I have just been appointed by the Coney River Greenway Commission. I'm really excited to be here. I have a lot to learn still, just so you guys all know, I'm also very new to that commission. I just started my term in January, so I'm still sort of catching up and having a lot to learn there, but I hope that I still will be able to, represent them very well in this commission. And I'm looking forward to learning from you guys and hope that I can, contribute here too. I personally, I work at Athens Land Trust. I'm a conservation specialist there, which, I'm not really sure what that title exactly means, but what I do is I'm the stewardship coordinator. So I work with all of our landowners who have properties where we hold conservation easements. And then I also am the coordinator for the Northeast Georgia Invasive Plant Cooperative. And so through that, I run a youth job skills training program called Young Conservation Stewards, and also handle volunteer work days, stuff like that. And personally, I am a really avid biker. I'm a mountain biker and a road biker. So that's another way that I can hopefully contribute is
speaking up for those crowds. I'm sure many, sounds like lots of other folks here probably are in the same page, in the same boat, but thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I have a lot to learn, but hopefully I can also contribute a lot.
Well, we are excited to have you, Carly, especially, you're serving on 2 commissions. So, yes. That's great. I mean, I'm really excited with the way this commission has been shaping up in the past 6 months, and oh man, this is a great spot to be. And I keep meaning to try and organize a facilities tour with you guys where we go out and ride, but now it's all hot and humid. But I hope that we all will be in the same space again soon. And speaking of that, nice segue into the future of our Athens in Motion Commission meetings. We've been online for coming up on a year now, and we had talked about whether we would get back together in person at the early part of summer, and we decided that for now we would continue Zoom, WebEx meetings through the summer, and it's now the end of July, and so I wanted to bring up that conversation again and see about how we'll continue our meetings. Daniel, do you have some thoughts as our bike ped coordinator and person who's been posting our Zoom links?
Just in regards to the meetings. Yeah, we can continue doing this. I know we do have a couple spaces in the county that have the ability to have webcam, kind of like a smart board in the office. In talking with the public information office, it sounds like that has been a little difficult in terms of audio quality for everyone on YouTube. The only real place that's been set up for YouTube videos was the chamber. And so we could do some test runs if we wanted to, and wanted to do mostly in person, but if some people still needed to remain virtual due to distance or anything like that. I know what are y'all's feelings? Is there anyone who's dying to get back in person, or I'm sure for taking
having recently joined in the last few months, I'd be thrilled that we had an in-person meeting. And actually I hate Zoom and WebEx anyway, so in person's the way to go.
Yeah, if we can do it in person, I'd love for us to resume that. I mean, Zoom is nice and convenient because, you can have on your yoga pants and nobody knows, but
Or your barn pants.
or no pants and nobody knows.
Oh,
but
there you go.
But yeah, I mean, I think we have a better quality when we are together in the same room. But this has been great. I really have to say, I'm very impressed with how everybody has used this platform to keep Athens in Motion going. I was concerned at the beginning that we'd kind of fall apart. So congratulations.
Stephen, I know we tried out the video call this morning. What, from your side of experience, how was the audio? I guess it didn't work at all, did we? I had to call in, so not great.
Yeah, I would say we're still trying to find that perfect piece of technology that lets us have a hybrid meeting. What we found probably works the best right now is for those people calling in, we'll have a conference line that we can set up in whatever room we use. And because the audio through WebEx itself tends to have issues with computer output. So we'll have something. I think we could duct tape together something for whenever you're ready, and then we'll have a real solution in the next few months.
We could also try it out for a committee meeting where we are live streaming, but if it fails, it's not a huge concern. There's also we could check in with Leisure Services. I know their Pound Street complex. They also have one of those wireless conference stations, and I've been able to communicate with them through that. So we could give that a shot. But yeah, I know, Mark, when are you heading back to Athens? Oh. There we go.
Mid-August.
Mid-August.
So we'll be in town. But I'd be a lot more comfortable if I knew everyone was vaccinated that I'm going to be spending time in a small room with for 2 hours as a 60-year-old asthmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's just where I'm at. So.
Absolutely. Well, I've been vaccinated. So.
Yeah.
But
we can't require it. I know that we live in Georgia and we can't mandate anything, but I would hope that everyone has been responsible and non-selfish and has gotten the vaccine, whether they think they need it or not. My third arm has not grown out of the head, and the microchips help my cell signal immensely, so it's actually been pretty good. Anyway, enough of that. But yeah, I'll be back in time for the late August meeting is the bottom line.
If it helps inform a decision, the Greenway Commission did just determine that we are going to maintain, stay on WebEx just in light of the Delta variant. But that does not mean that that's what we need to do here. But just so you know, that's the decision. We basically haven't made a decision to come back to person yet.
Yeah. All right, maybe what I would like to do, and we can change this later, but I'd like to propose, I like Daniel's idea of trying a hybrid option for a committee meeting. Maybe we can do that for policy or something like that, Daniel.
Okay.
And I want to, I think I would like to propose that we have our August 24th meeting be in person. With the idea that this might change in the next couple weeks, depending on what we hear about the Delta variant, as Carly alluded to, and or, back to school and all of that. And certainly I will be listening to you commissioners and your concerns. So if anyone wants to email me or Daniel personally, I'm happy to hear that and use that in deciding whether we'll be in person or not. It sounds like there is a desire to be in the same room together and see how that goes. And yeah. So next committee meeting, which I don't think we set the date for the next policy committee meeting. So I will figure that out. And then we'll plan to meet, for now we'll plan August 24th will be in person. We'll figure out where that is. And we'll be flexible about that. And it will, hopefully we'll have a hybrid option if it is in person. Sound okay?
Do y'all want to do a vote for that, or is it just kind of a recommendation?
No, we can do a vote, or I can just say that's my recommendation.
Up to you guys.
I would, and just chiming in here, so I would say that if y'all choose to, so it would certainly be, if you say in person, it would definitely be hybrid. So we would make that happen. And then we would also make sure it was in a large conference room. I'm hoping for like the auditorium instead of the TPW conference room. To Carly's point about an outdoor meeting, I think to make sure we can do live streaming, we would need to be able to have an indoor facility.
Right, I was about to say that. It makes sense.
Cool. You want me to check into the Pound Street conference room? It's not quite as big as the auditorium at planning, but I do know they have kind of some newer equipment and audio stuff.
Tiny little room?
I haven't seen that one.
It's probably like a 12-person table. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
one. No,
If you can get the
that-
auditorium, it'd be
that-
better, I think.
We could open the windows and set up fans and stuff, but yeah, we could also try for the auditorium.
You know, we could shoot for that third floor of Lay Park again. That was actually a pretty great setup too. But planning auditorium is the biggest spot that we've got priority on, so we can look into that first.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So y'all will report back on which spot we're getting. Okay.
Yeah, we'll explore some options and discuss that and try some WebEx calls in those spaces, whichever one we choose. So.
Okay. Yeah, we could potentially get our next policy meeting in there to test it out.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead and send out the meeting for it, and it'll be virtual, but we'll update the location based on
Okay.
what we can find.
Yeah, and I don't think we set a date, Daniel. So,
Oh, this is for policy, or was this for the general?
oh yeah, we have a date for August 24th is general. Policy is TBD.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I was just gonna go ahead and send out the one for next August because I don't want to forget it.
Sounds great. Okay. Thank y'all. All right, that was a lot of housekeeping up front. Normally we would probably save that for the end, but we needed to front load a lot of that and welcome our commissioners and talk through some things. So next item is park planning, and Daniel, you are going to talk about some updates from parks where normally Todd would do that, right?
Yes. Let me pull up his list for me. I think he said there weren't many updates. It was mostly construction updates on trail stuff. Let's see. Getting a lot of emails today. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, he said nothing too exciting is going on with the trails. Firefly Phase 2 contractor is still working towards a September completion date, so that's coming up, and that's exciting. That's the segment that goes from Old Winterville Road up to, I believe, Hancock, where the quarry is. Firefly Bridge over Trail Creek, that is where the Emmer trestle is. Demolition of the wooden trestle is complete, so it'll be a very different site for the first time in few hundred years, up until they go back and rebuild it. Cars Creek Greenway, Park Planning is working with the SPLOST office on the August work session agenda item for preliminary plan revision. So basically, because of the acquisition of land along Cars Creek, they can now shift the trail away from the top of the creek bank, which, you know, it's kind of closer to it right now, and they wanted to shift it back a little bit. So that'll reduce stream buffer incursions, and they're also proposing a trailhead parking lot right there near where the Circle K gas station is, kind of a cross carriage from that carriage lane, kind of at that corner. So they want that to be part of the project as well. For the Cemetery Greenway, they are waiting on contracts to be finalized. And that is all that he's got as in an update for me. So.
Wonderful, thank you. Now I'm just in map land. It's the cemetery. Woohoo! Good stuff. Long time coming.
So cemetery completion is looking at toward the end of next year?
I'm not sure on the completion date. I do know that the contracts, so what he was saying is basically they're still waiting on contracts to be finalized, which, you know, I'm not sure what the timeline usually
Mhm.
goes on that. Stephen, do you know if it's similar to TPW contracts? Or if it were similar, like how far out from completion would we be?
That I'm not sure of.
Okay. That's why we need Ronnie on every one of these.
Yep.
So.
All right. Thank you for that update. And now I will turn this over to Teresa, who's going to talk about the status of our Open Streets event. And Teresa, do you want me to go ahead and pull up the route that you sent me?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So if you could like zoom out a tiny little bit, that would be great. Oh no, you can see the whole thing here. Okay. So we are having a meeting. Mike Morgan. Sorry, my brother's calling me. We're having a meeting tomorrow at the Rock Springs Community Center building. And we're going to be meeting at 3:30 to talk about whether we can make this happen. The original plan was turned into a kind of a block party thing, and that wasn't going to work as an open streets event. And so Bike Athens said, you know, we really don't want to be part of this. So there was some discussion last week at our meeting about, well, okay, so where could we site this thing and what could it be like? And the idea that the Bike Athens folks floated was to have a course that would start at roughly Hancock and I can't see what that road is, maybe Pulaski. Yeah. And then end right near the library over on Baxter Street. And that there would be some closures, but mostly the streets would be open to local traffic. So it will require some coordination and strategic placement of hard closures. So Alex, I know, Alex Bond has been working hard to try to, you know, figure out some of the details about whether it's feasible or not. And so we're going to meet tomorrow. And if it looks like we might be able to pull this off, then the Open Streets event would go ahead on October 10th. I believe that's the date. And if we can't get it together by October 10th, the consensus is that rather than, you know, have a semi-successful or sort of lame, you know, not great event, we would rather wait until 2022, you know, and do a little bit of work and advanced planning and so forth, so that we could ensure that it is a good event. Because I don't know about you all, but I feel like if Athens in Motion is going to be, you know, co-sponsoring or sponsoring or whatever our role is here, that we want it to be successful and fun. We want people to say that was a great idea. We don't want people to say, well, that, you know, that didn't really work out well, now did it? So that's where we're at. If anyone wants to come to the meeting tomorrow, it's wide open. So just let me know.
Wonderful, Teresa. Thank you for your continued work on that.
Can I ask just real quick what that is, the Open Streets event? Or is it a biking or walking or?
Well, it's a fun concept that a lot of cities employ where on a schedule, they do a soft closure of a length of road in the city so that people can come out and rediscover their public streets in a new way. So there's an organization, I think Lauren's bringing it up, called Open Streets. And, you know, it's really a fun thing to do in a city. And Carol Myers, who was our first chair and who has been very involved in bike infrastructure really from the get-go, was very keen on Athens in Motion doing an Open Streets event. And I think it could be a wonderful thing for us. You know, you get kids out in the street with their bikes or their skateboards or whatever, and you know, people walk around with their dogs and their little ones in strollers, and you know, there aren't supposed to be vendors there, but there can be activities, you know, demonstration projects and things like that. So it's a little street fair that has people covering more ground than a block party might. Does that sort of explain it?
That's great. Thank you.
Macon has an open streets that they do 2 or 3 times a year, and I'll share that link in the chat. That way, see kind of what they're doing.
And I also shared a link to the Open Streets Project website. And Blaine, you know, that's such a great question. So I thank you for asking that. And Teresa, thank you for your explanation. We're really hopeful that we can have an Open Streets event because it's not just something we want to do. It's part of it's really part of our was part of our short-term goals as a commission is to host an Open Streets event, and we're hoping that we can have a successful one. And it's not just one event, but that it's the first of many events to help people reimagine what our streets can be, and to really to take them back. So if anyone, again, would like to join Teresa in planning that, there's the meeting tomorrow, 3:30. And just reach out to her to get involved. And so keep October 10th on your calendars, right, Teresa? Because I think that this will be, as much as possible, be an all hands on deck kind of situation. We'll want it to go well. And if you, as much as possible, if we can have our Athens in Motion commissioners out there to assist and see how it goes, we'd like that. I think there has also been an interest in getting a contingent of folks together to go to Macon for their next Open Streets event, which I believe is happening September 12th, and that's a Sunday. So let me know if you're interested. I would like to go, and I think some other folks are interested in going, like maybe some Bike Athens people, maybe some ACC staff. So could be a lot of fun. And I have never been to an Open Streets event, so I think that will really help me understand seeing it in person.
I'm going to try to go to the one in September, but I can't commit at this point. But yeah, so if we can pull this off for October 10th, then awesome, you know. And if we can't really do a great job, then we'll put it off until we can. That's where we're at, and I will report back after the meeting tomorrow.
Thank you, Teresa. All right, it's 5:07, and it is time to talk about my favorite item on the agenda, T-SPLOS project proposals. So I think what I'd like to do is pull up Mark's big bucket document, but we can do, let me actually pull up our general list so that way our folks know, our new people know what it is we are trying to do.
I don't know if you guys saw my comment. My mom is lives in Emory Village in Atlanta, and she's part of organizing the Emory Village Open Streets event. And so if I don't know if that's any closer than Macon, but
Yeah,
in Atlanta by Emory. So
cool.
Almost Sunday.
Do you know when their next event is?
Well, the event itself is the 24th. October 24th. I'm not sure if there's any. What do you want to be in on a meeting before that, or see what they're up to in the planning process?
Yeah, it might just be helpful to get so something that I've been wondering about Open Streets is kind of what some of the other groups have done to coordinate with local government. You know, I'd like to know from a staff perspective what we can do to make the process a little easier. And I think what would help our staff out a lot is to be able to know what some of the other, you know, departments of transportation or you know, behind the scenes on the government side for these events and what those staff are doing to make it possible. Because I don't want you guys to feel like you're just having to, you know, go out and constantly have every department say no. And so whether that's just a list of contacts for the government that they do work with to do the event, or just kind of which process it is that they're working through. That's kind of what I'm curious about.
Can you speak to that?
I'll be happy just to, hey, I'm Becky Evans. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm a
Welcome.
thank you. Anyhow, so at Emory Village, we've had Open Streets Emory Village for like 8 or 9 years. So it's a smaller event than the Streets Alive in Atlanta, which is like they block off several miles of streets. But in Emory Village, so we're in DeKalb County unincorporated. So our commissioners, you know, like as soon as we set the date, we tell them, and then the commissioner's administrator helps arrange for police contact and for sanitation. That's really our main connection with the county. Otherwise, it's mainly private partners.
And what about closing the streets?
Yeah, well, the closing streets is, you know, you have to, and since we've done it several years now, we have it down, but you know, you need a map of the streets and to figure out, you need to figure out the alternate routes, you know, like for how traffic can go around and everything.
But who do you contact in the county to?
Well, our commissioner helps us put in touch with the public safety person, and we've had the same police officer now for several years. And we live right, it's right by Emory, so we have half of our police come from Emory, and that's Emory's in-kind contribution, and then we pay the other DeKalb police officers, you know, as off-duty police officers.
Okay. Yeah, so that's good to know. I like that. Cool. So y'all go through the commissioner then basically to kind of make
Yeah, the
contact with.
commissioner for that area, yeah, is helpful. And we, yeah, so, and then. So I'm happy to tell you about any other groups, or I can tell Carly and she can tell you. But anyhow, and you're welcome to come October 24th. We're gonna do it from 2 to 6. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And my mom is a state rep, so I'm, you know, maybe I'm joining commissions because of her a little bit. Learning from all angles here.
Absolutely. Thanks for that information.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so Carly, you want to tag along on that meeting tomorrow that Teresa's having?
I was gonna ask if it was that an in-person meeting or because okay, yeah. Unfortunately I'll probably be on the road, so I won't be able to be there. But maybe if you want to have a call, Teresa, maybe I can send you my phone number. We can just check in.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do after that meeting is I'm just going to summarize where we're at, and then I'll send a memo. And now you're on the listserv, and you know, we can certainly talk after that. But right now, T-Splosh is eating me, you know, morning, noon, and night, and that's really the only thing I have bandwidth for. So
yeah, I totally understand.
Thank you for that. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm out of town, y'all.
No, you're good.
You're good. You're good. All right. Moving on to T-Splosh, and you know, we're already in our second hour, so I'm going to kind of go through this pretty quickly, a summary, and then I want to go through the projects individually and see what our project coordinators, managers are looking for and what they need at this point to move forward. Our deadline is August 15th. So it's a lot, and I just want to go ahead and commend this group for working on these project proposals because it's a beast. The form is 27 pages. I mean, there's a couple of explanation text in the first couple pages, but it's a lot. So really thank you guys. So I'll talk about the projects in brief real quickly to fill in our new commissioners, and then we'll go through what we need for each of them. So Blaine and Carly, we are submitting as a commission 5 T-SPLOST projects. The first one has a working title called The Big Bucket. We're going to call it something else, but this is a combination of bike and pedestrian funds. So this would be our general source of money to build out projects in the Athens in Motion plan according to how they are tiered. So we would focus on the tier 1 projects, and we haven't come up with our list of what projects from that tier 1 list we will do next. We need to figure out not only a name, but also an amount to ask for, and there's strategy involved in all of this. And then these next 2 projects would fall under the big bucket because they are tier 1 projects as well, but because of their significance as corridors, because there's been studies done with these, and because of the sheer cost in implementing the projects along these corridors, we have decided to section them out and make them their own projects. So we have some ideas to build out bike and pedestrian infrastructure along Atlanta Highway and West Broad, and then Lexington Highway. And those have, as I said, have corridor studies associated with them. So there's momentum building, and they also each have their own T-SPLOST 2018 starter funds as well. And then we have those roughly priced out, but there's been some more detail that is going to go into that. And then we also have a project to remedy accessibility issues with our sidewalks for people biking and rolling. So a classic issue is there's a telephone pole in the middle of a sidewalk, or there's no curb cuts, or there's other obstacles. And so that's a great smaller project. And then small sidewalks. So these are like this is us imagining a new program where people who live in neighborhoods, they're on smaller roads and they're not necessarily part of the Athens in Motion plan, which seeks to make the most with, seeks to implement projects that have the biggest bang for their buck, that provide the most connectivity. So a lot of these smaller neighborhoods, they kind of get left out. So, someone calls and says, oh, I would like a sidewalk, but there's no funds. Or ideally what this program will do is will be based on equity. So there's an outreach component to it. So it's not just squeaky wheel gets the grease. So those are our 5 planned projects. The big bucket, this is what will, our big ask. In the previous T-SPLOST, it was a separate collection of funds for bike projects, which was 6 million and then 11 million for pedestrian. And we're just combining that into one bucket, the 2 corridors, ADA sidewalks, and then small sidewalks, a new program. So going back to the top, Mark has taken on our big bucket, and Teresa has been assisting, and Daniel has been there. So Mark, you have the draft out, and you have continued to work on the one that's in the drive, right? Or did you start a new?
It's in the drive. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. You will see Teresa's comments if it's the current one. If you scroll down, you'll start to see Teresa's comments, hopefully. But it is, first draft is done. Yeah, you have to get past all that introductory nonsense there.
Page 10 is like the first question.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so this is the correct document. Yeah, and blue is my response to the question. I've put the text after each box, and rather than putting it in the boxes, and in some places I've also indicated how many characters we're currently at. At this point, Teresa, thank you very much for going through that. I would love to get input from other folks, particularly Daniel and Lauren, because we've been in meetings about this, but everyone else is very welcome to contribute their ideas and thoughts. Probably, for the most part, it'd be better to use comments rather than the suggesting editing. because otherwise it can get kind of messy with 10 or 12 people trying to suggest and then unsuggest and then resuggest and blah, blah, blah. So, and if you want to email me offline and, ask questions, happy to take that as well. I would like to, this is the 27th. I'm leaving on a trip where I'll be on a boat in Lake Michigan for 5 days. So I will have no computer and nothing on August 3rd. So I would love to get comments from folks by this weekend so I can start to finalize things and then also start to think about figures, diagrams, maps, things like that, because that'll take a little while to put together.
And I can help with some of those maps. That was kind of my old school. I used to do all the graphics for our leisure services grant stuff. So we'll see if I still got it.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm counting on it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have started to pull out pages from the Athens in Motion plan. So the prioritization criteria and whatnot. I think it would be, I know that Teresa made a folder here, so I'm going to go ahead and make a folder for the big bucket.
Okay, so if I've also, I didn't realize that, and I have also started to create some PDFs that have,
Great.
like the table 4.1 and things like that.
Okay.
So let's move that. Maybe we can agree to move that online. I think one of the things I wanted to do was to show what has been done, sort of the status of the projects that have been done already with the previous TSPLOST, what's been completed, what's underway, what's funded and not yet started, and just so people can get the context of that who are on the commission or the TSPLOST commission. That's all I have.
Okay, are you asking for help building that particular handout?
No, I can work on that, but I just wanted to get input on, did people think that was a good idea before I went ahead and did it?
Yes, I think that that's
Okay.
a great idea.
Okay.
Can I just chime in with a general comment on this whole exercise, which is that we need to have an Athens in Motion commissioner's name on each of these proposals, and that commissioner cannot be part of the TSPLOST Citizens Advisory Group. Lauren and I are both on it, so we're not able to put our names on any of these. So if anybody out there wants to put their name forward, that would be super great.
Well, obviously I can do it for the big bucket.
And as y'all are volunteering for that, remember it's that person would also be sort of the face of the presentation aspect of the proposal, which will happen later this fall.
Yes, thank you, Teresa, for bringing it up, and thank you, Stephen, for that reminder. I do have a note about presentations. Mark, since we're still talking about the big bucket, are you comfortable with being the person to present, to pitch this?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I've done it before. I do lots of presentations and stuff. I mean, I'm a professor, so.
We might, it might be something, we can certainly do a situation where we put someone's name on it and then another commissioner presents or co-presents.
When I was chair of the Greenway Commission, that's what we did, because
Okay.
I think my name went in as chair, but then David Spooner did the presentation. This was years ago, but yeah. So
Okay.
I don't think it's wedded to it, but we just wanted the best person to do it at that time.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
So we'll see.
Like Carly, I see you nodding your head. Do you want to jump on presentation with Mark?
If you think I'm needed, I can. Obviously, I don't have my hands in this yet. So I don't want to, speak too soon or take away any credit or anything like that. I'm just, I'm here to help. So
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really it's fine that you don't know that much about all this yet, because it's a procedural issue, because like the stuff that I've worked on, I can't put my name on it. I'm working on these TSPLOST projects here, and then one for my neighborhood, and because I'm going to be on this TSPLOST committee, other people have to put their name on it and present it. So it's, all the information would be available for you. It wouldn't be like, you had to like wing it. So
Right. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, you know, if it would be better to have, I'm sorry, to have my name on the West Broad one, you know, I'm happy to do that. You know, for you, Teresa. Or both. I mean, I don't, whatever makes sense.
Okay, let's continue having this discussion. Something else that really we have to figure out for the big bucket in particular is the amount we're asking for. And we don't have to decide that today. So that's mainly a note there. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to status update regarding Atlanta Highway and West Broad. And Teresa and Daniel, I know y'all spent a whole day working on this. So you want to give us an update? And where does it live right now? Is it in Dropbox?
no, it's in that that folder that I created.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I
And
knew it.
As Stephen mentioned also, for these presentations, TPW staff are going to be at these presentations to answer questions during, you know, from the user group as well. So you're not going to be on your own there.
Right.
So yeah, so Daniel spent a day with me, and then I also met up with him and Stephen at the first of the workshops. And so this is pretty close. I think that what I really need help with is a set of exhibits to go with it. You know, because you want to tell the story effectively. And I think I included in the folder, there's a little map that Daniel showed me how to get. Yeah, see this is cool. Those purple lines are existing sidewalks. And you can see Atlanta Highway there, and you can see that it has sidewalk until it doesn't. No, that's, yeah, that one. Okay, so, and then it has little bits and pieces of sidewalk. And so what we want to make sure is that we have purple running all up and down that stretch of road where people will be walking. And there are lots of places where people frequently walk. And one place in particular where you really see folks out on foot is crossing the Middle Oconee River. And I don't know, it just makes me sad when I see that. And so I think that might be a good exhibit to have with this proposal. But if there's anything else, you know, I'd really appreciate some help with that.
I can, once again, for all of our projects, I can work on various sets of maps. Because once I make one map that covers, you know, showing sidewalk gaps, for instance, it's very easy to just change the location on it and export that for all of them. So once we get ours submitted tomorrow, so that'll be I will be working on that tomorrow. So probably next week I'll be able to start working on some of the other maps, and I'm also providing some of those services too for the residents who have reached out. I'm sorry.
My hat's off to you, Daniel. Anyway, so yeah, that's where we are with that, and I think it's in good shape. You know, I got help with the numbers, which was really tricky, and so I think that's a fairly good good proposal for us, and you know, hopefully we'll get it approved.
And with the numbers, it's been a blur the last week. Was that me or was that, did you get from Ronnie?
I think when we were working together, we came up with that. It might have been at the workshop. Yeah, it was at the workshop.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but hopefully that number is enough. We could always double it and see what happens.
I was just laughing at Stephen's comment.
Yeah, so to fill in Blaine and Carly, are y'all familiar with how SPLOSTs work and the process, or a little bit? Okay, so yeah, Blaine's nodding and Carly says mostly. Yeah, so what usually happens is a bunch of projects are submitted, presentations are given, and then the committee may come back and say, hey, you know, we liked your project, but we'd like to see it at a lesser amount or reduced amount or a smaller program or something like that. So that's why we're trying to anticipate that ahead of time so we don't have to come back and redo everything and be like, oh my gosh, how can we possibly chop up this project, you know, and not end up with sidewalk gaps everywhere, things like that. So we're trying to think about that as we do this. So next on the list is Lexington, and I had a really great meeting at Lay Park with Daniel and Steven, and Alex was there, and who's the other gentleman from Leisure Services? Was it Chris?
Eric.
Eric, okay. Eric, and you know, Keith was there, and so it was Keith from the SPLOST office, and it was just a great opportunity to think about projects, and Randy was there working on the small sidewalks, which we'll get to. So just to update you all, I have talked with Jake, who's our former commissioner, and has agreed to assist the Lexington Highway project because he is also on the Lexington Highway Corridor Committee. And what we've come up with is just to update you guys really quickly. Find Steven's map. Maybe I'll find it later. I'll just pull up Google Maps. Is there, just like with Atlanta Highway, there's a lot of tier 1 projects along the corridor. So what we're thinking of doing, that's Olympic Drive. So this is Lexington down here. And the corridor committee, as far as we know, is going to use their TSPOS 2018 funds to put in some sidewalks and fill in some gaps between Barnett Shoals and Gaines School Cherokee, so on the south side. So our project is going to be to build a continuous sidewalk to complete the gaps, so complete whatever they start from SPLOST 2018, and can complete that from Barnett Shoals all the way down to Whit Davis. And there's mostly sidewalks on the south side between Whit Davis and Gaines School Cherokee, and then have a multi-use path on the north side that would pick up where the Firefly Trail will come close to Winterville Road here. So what we figured out is instead of trying to direct bicycle traffic to go under the loop here and traverse all this, and this is going to be one big GDOT project coming up. Here's the Firefly Trail over here. We'll have some way to get off the trail onto Winterville Road, cross here, and this is where the movie theater was, and have a multi-use path all the way down. The multi-use path would connect with Satterfield Park over here. So y'all will remember we have Cherokee Road as one of our first projects that we made a recommendation on to the Mayor and Commission. We suggested a sidewalk, they suggested a multi-use path. There's no multi-use paths nearby. So what we're going to do is we're going to lean into their recommendation to that multi-use path. And with this Lexington proposal, meet up with Satterfield Park and then continue down. And there's currently mostly a sidewalk along this next northern side of Lexington. But there are some gaps. And we'll have the multi-use path come down to Southeast Clarke Park, and Alex Bond suggested like, well, Athens-Clarke County already owns all this land, so we may as well have it continue to the edge of the property here, and you see there's 2 bus stops. So that's the big ask, and then we have plans for an alternate, a minimum ask to just have to at least fill in the sidewalk gaps between Barnett Shoals and Gaines School Cherokee, and then build the multi-use path to Satterfield Park, and the rest can be a phase 2. So that's the update of what we're thinking to ask for Lexington. And I will work with Jake on that and Daniel also on it, and we'll figure out pricing. And Stephen, thank you for getting me a map similar to Teresa's that has the where the sidewalks currently exist. It's pretty cool.
Sure.
Yeah. And Aaron is on vacation, but when he gets back, he is going to work with us to do the ADA sidewalks project. And then Randy was at Lake Park this weekend, working closely with Daniel and Stephen on the neighborhood sidewalks proposal. Randy, do you want to give us an update on how that's going and where you are with that and how we can help you?
Sure. So there was that the meeting at Lake Park was fantastic. The help from Daniel and Stephen was very good. So I'm about, I'd say, 3/4 of the way through putting the proposal together, keeping it at this point kind of high level in that, you know, we're looking to develop this program to give neighborhoods the ability to ask for having sidewalks installed. It was pointed out, I believe, by Stephen at the Lake Park meeting that there is a program currently, but where a community or a neighborhood can ask to have sidewalks installed, but ultimately they have to pay for it, for the construction, which eliminates a lot of communities from ever asking for having sidewalks installed. So I'm trying to, in the current write-up, which I just uploaded during the meeting into the Google Docs, or the Google Drive, that is, focusing on that aspect of, you know, that this is a program looking at equity for those neighborhoods that can't afford to install their own sidewalks. And then, you know, again, focus on the umpteen dozen sections within the application as to, you know, how it will benefit Clarke County as a whole. I would appreciate, as has been asked by everyone else, that if you can get in there, take a look at it. If you have any comments and additions, I'm looking right now. I'm focusing a lot on getting some supporting data on how, you know, it'll help Clarke County economically and, you know, from health aspects. I went through all those data that Daniel, you had sent the links to the wellness. There's some great information in there. And a lot of it. So I was trying to summarize some of that and include that into this proposal. But that's where I'm at right now. And with the weather, the way it's looking for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it looks like I'll be inside a lot anyway. So I'll hopefully be working on talking 100-degree temperatures those days. So I hope to finish this up by the end of this weekend. Really have a solid draft for everybody to look at.
Wonderful. Thank you, Randy. And it was also great to just finally meet you in person this weekend.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, Randy and I both biked, and Randy looked more stylish than I did. Had a nicer bike and jersey. And I just came there and was sweating, like I was like just in a work shirt like this, and I was just sweating the whole time. Just it took me 20 minutes to make the sweat go away. I needed that shower. So
I thought I would never pay that kind of money for a jersey, but it's worth every penny because it was hot that day.
It was rough, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you all. I'm trying to keep track of the things that you are asking for and what you need on this list. And
if I could jump in on the ADA proposal, I know, you know, Aaron's not here to talk about it, but I was kind of brainstorming a little bit today with Stephen, and we were planning on reaching out to the inclusion office because I think it would be really helpful to if there are any like ADA inclusion groups in Athens who would be able to speak more on behalf of the users who are really, the most affected by these barriers, rather than us just saying telephone poles in the middle of sidewalks, finding out from those users what are the bigger barriers, because we were kind of coming up with some different ideas, and apart from the utility poles, there's if the sidewalk's not quite wide enough, if it's too steep of a grade, if it's um, like the crossing signal. One thing that I think he and I both heard in this convention recently was someone who's visually impaired was speaking, and she took that moment to let us know that those beeping crosswalk signals are kind of pointless if you can't see which direction is safe to walk. And so there's actually crossing signals that will tell you the street that is safe to cross on, and even like what street you're on. And so, making sure that we're also thinking about visually impaired and not just, those confined to a wheelchair or something like that. So just to come up with different ideas of types of improvements. The other one was access to buses. So if you have sidewalk access to the bus now, that bus can serve that ADA community, whereas before, they were unable to do so. So we think it would be really helpful to have some sort of local group. I don't know if there are groups at UGA that we could potentially have as a partner in putting that ask together, or specialists in that field, or even just a citizen group or a Facebook group of people who are concerned. But some sort of inclusion, make sure that we're actually with those types of projects that are all about access and inclusion, like actually talking to the people who would benefit, so that we can include that in our write-up and even potentially the presentation.
I'd just like to mention that all these ADA measures that have been developed over time are beneficial to more than just people who are struggling because of, an injury or some other sort of disability. I mean, moms with strollers, all those ADA ramps, and getting rid of those utility poles in the middle of the sidewalk. You face exactly the same challenges as someone who's in a wheelchair when you're pushing a baby around. So we could also reach out to them.
Mm-hmm. There's a whole article about this, that there was a movement to demand curb cuts, like on a campus. And then it got passed. And of course, everyone uses the little curb cuts, even if you're walking. I got to find this article because I learned about this in the walking college. I'll send this to you guys. So Teresa, thank you. That's a great point. Yeah, usually we build these facilities like, oh, it's for people who need them, but then everyone uses them, of course. And it's great. So a few more items related to T-Splost. As we talked about, we need people to have their names on these projects, and we also need people to do the presentations. And don't mean to put everything on Carly. I guess really what I'm wondering is, Carly and Blaine, are there any of these that speak to you that you wouldn't mind, particularly Teresa's project, Atlanta Highway, that you wouldn't mind having your name on or helping to present? And I'll share the screen again.
Yeah, I'm happy to help out. I mentioned in the comments, the Land Trust does a lot of work in the West Broad community, and we work to serve that community anyway. I feel, probably most called to that one, but I'm happy to help out wherever I'm needed most. But again, I'm not as knowledgeable yet, so may need a little bit of coaching, but happy to step up.
Same as Carly. Yeah, this is a lot to kind of absorb, and taking it in.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to help out. I'd say for me, I'm gonna say ADA projects is something we deal with all the time on campus. I can really recite you a lot of ADA parking regulations and things like that. So this is very good for me. It's something I didn't think about, like, the sidewalks and things like that, because that's typically what I'm dealing with. But I'm happy to pitch in, wherever.
Awesome.
I just realized in the comments I was replying privately to Craig Topple by accident, but I've said a couple things, so sorry about that. And sorry, Craig.
No, Craig's a great person to talk to. It's good. Yeah, he'll let you know if you're off base. Okay, that's great. Thank you guys. And I know it feels like we're kind of throwing you into stuff, but this is probably the biggest thing that we've ever done. It's this whole T-SPLOST submission has snuck up on us. We were preparing for it to be in the fall, and it really is a team effort. And I really thank you, and please know that things will get better after the fall. But don't mean to throw you into the fire, but just so excited to have you here. So Blaine, I'm gonna have you and me and Daniel and Aaron be in the same email about the ADA stuff. Maybe we can just go ahead and do that, and keep Aaron in the loop about what's going on there. And
I am putting together an email as well for the inclusion office to reach out to the ACC inclusion office, see if they have any recommendations or contacts.
okay. Great. And the last thing I want to mention with regard to T-SPLOST stuff is with our materials that we're gathering together, I think that those are going to be wonderful to help the committee members, the T-SPLOST committee members, parse what's in our presentation or what's in our submission, because there's a lot there. It's difficult to read. The last T-SPLOST was, I think, between 39 and 44 proposals. I think this one's going to be a lot more. So anything we can do to break down into the essentials and also provide backing information for the committee members will be helpful. So if I have time, what I would like to do is get together, create some sort of template where I can do a one-pager for each of our submissions. That is sort of like a cover letter for everything that we attach and says what it is, maybe what the Athens Motion Commission is, and just synthesizes what we're trying to do. And I will pull from your submissions and we'll look at that together. But I hope to get something like that available. I think that it would be really helpful. So that's coming. Moving on from T-SPLOST. Let me just, actually, I do want to go back and make sure that I have all the action items for T-SPLOST because this is such a big deal. So Mark for the Big Bucket has asked for feedback and would like comments by this weekend because he's going to be on a boat. And please use comments instead of the suggestion mode to get those in. And he's working on some handouts. You already have some. You're going to do a status of the current projects. And Mark, I can get you I have somewhere the tier 1 and the tier 1 bike and ped projects that I'm going to include in that folder if you don't have them already. We might, maybe Carly and Mark will co-present on the Big Bucket since it's our biggest ask. I think that could be good. And I think you guys could bounce off of each other in a presentation. Atlanta Highway, Teresa needs exhibits to show. Daniel, you're going to work on various sets of maps for all of these projects once you get through this week in your submissions.
Access to the drive. I may have missed it in an email, but
I haven't added you yet, but I have it on the top of my list to add you guys. And you might, I don't know what email address we're using, particularly for you, Blaine, if you want it to be your UGA email address. I think we found that Gmail, well, I think we can do UGA mail. I know sometimes we've had issues with that, but if you have a Gmail you would like me to use instead, or Carly, if you have a different email address, please let me know.
Okay, I think the land trust is perfect.
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat just to.
Right. I filled you guys in on what the deal is with Lexington, and I'm working with Jake on that. Randy would like eyes on his submission. It's in the drive. He's currently gathering supporting data. Daniel, you're reaching out to the inclusion office to figure out what the bigger barriers are for ADA, and there are some solutions like better crossing signals when talking about access to buses. So for you guys who are putting these proposals together, did I encapsulate everything that you need? Anything I left off? Cool.
Nope, it's good.
Thank you again. Moving on to regular updates, we only have 10 minutes left. I think I'm going to do this a little bit in reverse. Do any of our corridor committees, so that's Atlanta Highway, Lexington, Prince Avenue, have any updates that you feel like you need to share?
Just very briefly, the Prince Avenue Corridor Committee, we are working on a T-Splosh proposal of our own, just so you know that.
Right. Thank you, Mark. And that was kind of my understanding too. All right, Teresa, do you have anything from Atlanta Highway?
I'm sure I do, but I can't bring it to the front of my memory at the moment. But basically, we're just asking mayor and commission to vote on what the T-Splosh 2018 survey results produced, which are mostly pedestrian projects. So there will be a meeting September 7th, and they'll vote up or down for the T-Splosh 2018. And as far as 2023, I'm not sure what the status of that is. We did have a meeting, but we didn't really talk about that. So that's it.
Daniel or Stephen, anything on Lexington?
Yeah, I can give that real quick. So they're in the exact same timeline as Atlanta Highway. They will have a vote on their sub-project recommendations going forward in September as well. And they are, from what I remember off the top of my head, they're focused on the sidewalk gaps on the south side of Lexington, and then also some preliminary design work on a few projects that are kind of outside their scope of funding, including one of the intersections at Gaines School, Cherokee at Lexington, and then also looking into some preliminary design of a new airport road to connect the airport to Lexington directly.
Cool. Thank you for that that update. I'm trying to eat something so I don't pass out. I'm so hungry. We heard from Teresa about the Open Streets event. That's education and communications. Teresa, anything else you want to mention from educations and communications?
Not at this time, but if folks want to start giving some thought to messaging, that would be cool. Then we can talk about it in September.
Great.
I'm going to set a date for that next one to talk about the budgets. If not, that's fine.
Yeah.
Hear what you're saying, Daniel.
Oh, I was asking if you wanted to set a date for that next meeting for education and communication about the budget.
Right. Well, I'll be sending an email tomorrow after Open Streets. And then in September when we meet, we can talk about how to start spending the money. But I just can't even focus on it right now.
Not a problem.
Understood. No problem. Teresa did receive access to our Instagram accounts. That was an action item from last time. So Teresa, thank you for figuring that out and working with Carol to get that. Yeah, and Teresa's also working on setting up our TikTok account. Just kidding. Just kidding.
We'll see if we can get Tim Griffith on a couple videos.
Nice.
Me and Tim are going to do the cha-cha.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah, I know I'm going out of order here, and I'm just trying to get through this stuff so we can get to Daniel's stuff. So policy committees, all T-SPLOST all the time. That's our life. Grants and data, do you have anything? Do you know when you'll hear back about the RRFB Blinky Flashy grant?
The Blinky Flashy, no, I looked and I couldn't find anything on their site about when they were planning to make a decision or when they would report back.
Yeah, so to fill people in, our grants and data committee has applied for a grant so we can get some RFBs on Little Oak Street to connect the Firefly Trail with Bernie Street. And we appreciate them for working on that with ACC staff as well. And so also in this committee, usually we'll check in with UGA. So that's you, Blaine. So this is like, we didn't prepare you for any of this, but if you had updates or you had report backs or things that you wanted to ask us about to bring to the folks at the university, this is, would be a time for that. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Honestly, no, not right now. Certainly, didn't have anything prepared for this.
Sure, of course. Great. So I have, the way I do the agenda is there's these brief updates here, but if you want more time, like, oh, we need to talk about this, just let me know, no problem. Like Teresa asked for some extra time to talk about the Open Streets event, and we wanted to make sure we got that in, so we did list that as a separate item. But other than that, you'll always have at least a couple minutes on the agenda to report back. Okay, moving on, there's no T-SPLOST updates for July. So Greenway Commission, Carly, same for you. If you have anything that you want to share or ask of us, we have a section for this. And of course, like I told Blaine, if you needed more time than just a couple minutes, can certainly add that as an item on the agenda. So anything you want to share with us?
I don't think so. Yeah, and we don't have, the only events I can think of, Jake organizes second Saturday invasive removal work days, which I feel passionately about. So I will also promote that here. But hopefully next time I'll be a little bit more prepared and have, some words from the Greenway Commission. Right now we're pretty deep into doing, I'm on the planning committee and we're working on updating the Greenway plan. So, getting a 2021 update, and we're hoping to have that pretty much complete by the end of September. So, working pretty hard there, and we are working on some T-SPLOST proposals as well. So,
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, look forward to hearing more about that, and thank you for being our connection. And I don't have any updates from the Firefly Trail East Athens Local Action Committee. I know that East Athens is looking to submit some projects for T-SPLOST as well. So I know we're getting close to 6, and Daniel has to give his update. And Daniel, yeah, I'm sorry I put you off to the very end. I was trying to breeze through everything, so that way, the people who had things to share besides you and needed to go could go ahead and leave. But I hope if anyone can stick around for a few minutes past 6 o'clock, I hope you will. If you can't, totally understand. We do try and cram a lot into these 2-hour meetings, so thank you for your patience with that. Daniel, I'll kick it over to you. Raise grant, complete streets policy, and you said you had some other items you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so the raise grant was submitted on July 12th. So I believe we find out in November. Is that right, Stephen? Yeah. And so we'll find out if we made it into the final, or I guess if we were awarded it. And then we've been working on department T-SPLOST proposals, which are due tomorrow. I have had one, and Stephen has had however many other ones the rest of the department is doing. So Stephen, if you want to talk about some of those proposals.
It'll be real brief. There are a few that I think would probably interest y'all because they do have some bike ped components to them. So specifically, we're asking for another huge bucket for paving. It's about $50 million as our primary ask, and that'll include a lot of complete streets opportunities. Traffic engineering is putting forward 3 different proposals that sort of accomplish the same thing with smart cities technology and linking together our intersections with fiber. And then that goes back to a new traffic facility, and how that affects bike ped is it would be improved signal timing and adaptive pedestrian signals that can talk back to the facility. Gives us better bike and ped counts as well for data usage. And then installing those grid smart cameras that you'll see at some intersections that look like little fisheye lenses. That technology can actually count bikes, peds, and motorists separately. And there's even some talk about it using it to do some predictive crash modeling. So there's some really interesting things with that. And then those intersection improvements would also include ADA upgrades and some ped head signals for pedestrians where they're not already there. There's a specific ask for a bridge program, which would include not just bridge maintenance but bridge enhancements. So matching funds for bridge replacements that GDOT's doing, that we're specifically to try and include bike and ped active transportation upgrades to bridges that historically have just been bottlenecks for anything other than motorists. So that's something that we know there's going to be multiple T-SPLOST proposals for some pedestrian bridges or enhancements to bridges, but there's enough to go around. There's some real need there that's kind of hindering our bike ped infrastructure. And then finally, an intersection improvement program, which would try and focus on the next 5 worst rated intersections in Athens, and would include pedestrian improvements at each of those and bikes where applicable. Those, just as a sneak preview for you all, would be continuation of the Tallahassee at Mitchell Bridge at the Loop interchange there, the old Epps Bridge at Hawthorne intersection, Baxter at Alps, North Avenue at MLK, which is also part of the RAISE grant proposal. So if RAISE doesn't happen, this may be something that could kind of push that project forward. And then the last one is Westlake at Lumpkin. And that's some of what we're proposing. I think I've put in 7 proposals so far, and a few more that I'm going to try and sneak in tomorrow morning.
Wow, that's exciting. I'm really pleased to hear that there's such a bike and pedestrian element to all or nearly all of these projects. You said 50 million for pavement maintenance?
That won't happen. We're being hopeful, but that's the goal, and that would actually be a sustainable paving rate that would lead us toward a rate of actually kind of repairing at the life cycle cost.
Okay. So Mark, I'm thinking 50 million is what we should ask for our big bucket. I was thinking about tying into pavement maintenance, but I didn't think you guys would ask for 50 million.
What was the combined bike and ped last time for Athens, for the T-SPLOST?
Well, it was
Athens
six million for bike projects, 11 million for pedestrian projects, and you
Okay.
see that we have gone through our pretty much all of our ped bucket and our
Yeah.
and then our bike bucket was eaten up, or is going to be eaten up by Barber Street. And I don't mean to say eaten up because it's totally worth it, right? This is what we want to be doing, but that's not going to put a dent in our tier 1 list to have that little funding. So,
I think another thing to consider is that, with that essentially 17 or 18 million, we've had that for 5 years, and we are just now spending it down. And so it could be a similar situation where, how much are we actually able to accomplish within 5 years? Rather, because if you're going to go with, the bucket ask of, okay, all of our tier 1 projects, yeah, $100 million, but that's kind of the way I would approach it, and maybe base it off of how many projects we could get, and we could look at those top tier.
Yeah, that's a great point, Daniel. Thank you for reminding me of that, because I mean, we could ask for all of the money in T-Splost to go to bike ped projects, but we wouldn't accomplish all of them in 5 years. And that's the nice thing about the T-Splost. It's a 5-year T-Splost, 5-year Splost. So thank you for that. So that's one of the.
I have a question regarding that. So Daniel and Stephen, are you all able to give us any guidance on, what a good number would be for that big bucket?
Oh, you're muted. Hold on. Yeah.
You're saying like kind of as far as how many projects we can do in 5 years? I'd say looking at T-Splost 2018 is a great indicator, right? So we pretty easily spent 17 million. We could easily do that again with inflation. I'd probably shoot maybe 25.
That's the number I had in my head too.
There you go.
Yeah, because I think it's important to consider too that we had the projects, but there was also the plan that was under development, and so it's not like in 2018, as soon as it was voted, we were able to get going on implementing. And so with us kind of having a little more streamlined process, it makes sense that we'd be able to spend a little bit more. So yeah, my number was 25 or 30.
Daniel, do you remember that the Greenway Commission, we sort of we had this huge idea and wanted to ask for so much, and then having these conversations with Daniel and Alex Bond, dwindled it down a little bit. And we looked at, what percentage of the total T-Splost budget do we feel like we can ask for, for the Greenway or for Athens in Motion, what feels appropriate there. That sort of helped us, but I agree 25 sounds good.
What is the total amount?
Sorry.
Sorry about that, Carly. What's the total amount that we're looking at for T-Splost? Estimated.
$139,500,000.
Okay. And are there any large capital projects like last time it was the jail that are, sort of likely to be part of that?
It's and Stephen will probably know about this more than I will, but usually it's pavement maintenance is the biggest bucket. And that sounds about right based on what I would expect, unless the bridge program, could that be more? Okay.
Probably not. Paving's our largest one, and we're probably looking at getting I'd imagine they want to fund the whole 50, maybe a reduced ask for 30. And then the next largest one is our live stream pipe replacements program, which is probably about 10 to 13 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for my multimodal safety improvements, that's covering basically 4 sub projects of safe routes to schools, safe routes to parks, roadway safety audit, project implementation, and safety corridor implementation. So, those are all different types of programs, but they're all focused under safety, working towards those Vision Zero goals. We're not quite a Vision Zero. We're not ready to even kind of start the process of becoming Vision Zero community, but we want to work towards that. And so this particular ask would just start helping us improve that and build the foundation for future implementation of that program. And the construction or the initial ask is like 9.75, although that's before I've processed it through the calculator. So in terms of like the 50 million, is that including all of the fees and design fees? Is that like the final number, or is that the number you put into construction?
I'll have to look back, but I think with fees it ends up being closer to like 55 or 56.
Okay. So that's just things will go up a bit, but besides that, I'm also working with 2 interns on GIS projects. They're helping me with the safe routes to schools and parks kind of analysis to figure out how to start identifying where some of those sidewalk gaps are. We're working on a bike and pedestrian performance metric dashboard. It'll start off by just being kind of a departmental thing to kind of keep track of where we're at, but we'd like to eventually make it public facing once we have the data and build that we're ready for. We're also looking at collecting mid-block crossing and sidewalk updated data. So they're kind of going through and getting more info and categorizing into mid-blocks so that we can then start looking at the safety measures at each of those, so that when future grant programs like the RRFB Blinky Flashy grant comes up, we'll have a comprehensive list of where all of our mid-blocks are, and we could really start to look at the safety of each of those. Safe routes to schools and parks, like I said, they're working on kind of an analysis tool that if those programs get funded, then we'll be able to use those as kind of a way of identifying the prioritization of which ones would get built out. And then we're also looking at ADA field data collection for the ADA ramps. This is kind of just an experiment to see how long it takes. And then we're also getting social trails along our roadways. So we could start to pick out some of those, deer paths that people are walking with an intention of hopefully coming forth with a proposal in the future about potentially increasing kind of our service level of mowing in those areas. But that's going to be a conversation that we'll have probably this fall. But I'd like to go ahead and start collecting that data so we can at least kind of have that information. All of that, it's 2 interns. We're doing that, and a lot of it is kind of a insurmountable amount of data that it would take to collect. So one idea that we had was kind of a public data collection tool. We could start it in like kind of a draft form with the commission, the Athens Emotion Commission, where you guys could essentially go to this web link and use survey 123 to select a point and say, here's where something is, or here's a section of road, that needs improvement, and it could be a really great way for us to start kind of gathering that larger scale of data along all of our different roadways, because a lot of you guys are eyes on the road a lot more than some of us. And especially when you work from home. We could use that to kind of work on improving the ramps, crosswalks, all that kind of stuff. It could really feed into that ask about the ADA accessibility stuff. We could also potentially maybe get some student groups at UGA. I've worked with the geography department in the past. We could potentially get some data collection through them, or the College of Environment Design, or any other groups that might be willing to kind of participate in that. I know typically the classes are trying to have projects that are more focused on kind of like critical thinking and whatnot, but I think it's a pretty good exercise to tell someone to go out and collect 1,000 data points, and it's you gotta get your students ready for the workplace where they're going to be doing that level of data collection. So yeah, and then as I mentioned earlier, I think it would be helpful to find like a local ADA group. And I have already sent that email to the inclusion office and tagged you guys on it that are working on that project. So at the very least, even if we don't get the funding through TSPLUS, which I really hope we do, we can, start funding, at least like working on data collection on some of these so that future applications can be stronger. So, all right. That's it. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you all for hanging in there. I know we went over, I always say it's at not a 5 or 6 hour Mayor and Commission meeting. We try to stay within the 2 hours. Again, welcome to Carly and Blaine. We just kind of threw you into the fire here, and we definitely are very excited to have you on board and look forward to seeing your faces soon. And thanks for your help with TSPLOST. Yeah, we're Athens in motion. We keep things moving. We don't really get to stop and take a break. So, well, with that, I will adjourn this meeting.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
See you guys.